Am I the jerk? I asked my neighbor to have her son turn his house music down at midnight, and she slammed the door in our faces. Our neighbor is an older woman who lives alone. Her son, who is in his mid-40s, lived with her for a while, moved out to his older sister's place but frequently comes over and spends the night at his mother's. His bedroom window is directly across from mine, and he loves house music. He has a habit of blasting his music during the late-night hours, typically between 11:00 p.m. and 1:00 a.m. Tonight, at 11:00 p.m., he started playing house music. I had my window open because it is midsummer and it gets sickeningly hot here at night. He had his window open too, so the music was blaring directly into my room. Fortunately, he has good taste in music, but unfortunately I wake up at 6:00 a.m. for work. We let it continue until midnight, and sure enough, he was still going hard. The music ended up getting louder, at which point we decided to go next door to request that he either turn it down a little or close his window. We had no intent of asking him to shut it off, just to turn it down or close the window so that every lyric and instrument wouldn't be audible in my room. We went next door, knocked, and his mother answered. At first, she didn't even open the door. She just looked at us through the side window and said, "What?" We calmly and politely requested that she have her son turn the music down or just shut his window as we were trying to sleep in preparation for the Monday workday. She then opened the door, and before we could explain any further, shouted, "He's hardly here, so it's not like it's happening all the time. So please don't complain." I tried to explain that we weren't there to rag on them, but before I could finish, she said, "Well, that's just too bad," and proceeded to slam the door in our faces. We went back to the house, and I was honestly flabbergasted. We usually get along fine with them both. I was just in the yard chatting with her for an hour about our local mourning dove population not even a month ago. I used to bring her son fruit from our yard when the season was on. Everything was normal. So where this hostility came from, I have no idea. So what gives? Am I the asshole? Were we being totally unreasonable? It feels bad considering we have gotten along well as neighbors in all the years we have lived beside one another. You handled things appropriately. The man in his 40s who doesn't know not to blast music into the early hours on a workday is definitely the problem. Since asking nicely didn't work, it's time to file a noise complaint. No need to be polite when they're being so disruptive. Am I the jerk for refusing to walk in 90 heat? I am from the United Kingdom. I am very pale, like Casper the Ghost level pale. I burn instantly and have to bathe in sun cream to even look outside. If you have been to the United Kingdom, you would be aware that the sun does not come out except for maybe a few weeks in the summer, so my body struggles with any kind of heat. In 2022, I went on an exchange year to Alabama.net. The humidity was like nothing I had ever experienced before. I struggled to acclimatize because I arrived in mid-August, and it cooled off before I could adjust. I met my partner at the end of 2022. He is a native Alabamian and has grown up with the heat and humidity. When I left, we went long distance and have been together since. However, he has never really seen how much I struggle in the heat. I am due to visit him for a few months in a few weeks. I have not really experienced a high Alabama summer, but the humidity and heat in August gave me enough of an idea. I know I am going to struggle. He has spoken about hiking and climbing mountains because we are both active people. I asked what the temperature is usually like in July, and he told me it is usually above 90 degrees Fahrenheit. I know there is absolutely no way I can do that in that kind of heat. I told him I am concerned that I would have a heat stroke, but he dismissed my concerns and said I would be okay. I was adamant that expecting me to climb a mountain in heat that I am not used to will end up hospitalizing me. He countered that I would just have to drink water and stay in the shade, and that he would go crazy if he was stuck inside all day. I flat out refused and told him he is not caring about my health. He got upset because he really wants to climb this mountain with me and does not want to be trapped by my inability to deal with the heat. I do not know if I am being overly cautious or neurotic about being in the heat and walking in it. I am fine going outside, but I am worried about being in the sun during its peak. I am a hypochondriac to some extent, and I am worried this might be another case of me being one. So my flat-out refusing and not coming to a compromise may make me an asshole. You did nothing to be ashamed of. Hiking in extreme heat and humidity can be dangerous, especially if you're not used to it. There are plenty of other activities you can do together, like swimming or indoor sports, that won't put your health at risk. Your boyfriend should respect your concerns and understand that there will be plenty of opportunities to hike when the weather is cooler. Am I the jerk for thanking my ex for helping me realize my sexuality? Disclaimer: I know that no one makes anyone a lesbian. Lesbianism is innate within us. I, a 19-year-old female, never had crushes on boys and always thought girls were prettier but never really acted on it. Last summer, a guy named Fred, a 19-year-old male, showed interest in me and I thought I liked him back. Now I know that I was just trying to force myself to have feelings for him because I felt broken for not liking men. It was a horrible and short summer relationship. He was pushy, overly sexual, controlling, manipulative, and jealous. When I opened up to him about my potential attraction to girls, he even said, "Oh, so I have to worry about your girlfriends too now. It was just awfully cringe, like those Mafia Wattpad stories of a guy who meets you one day and then 3 days later is professing his undying love and swearing that anyone who touches you will pay. It's also worth mentioning that he is very mentally ill but has also weaponized his mental health against me to take him back when I escaped him the first time. After that, I tried to tell myself that no, I wasn't gay, he was just a bad guy. Spoiler alert, I'm gay as hell. After my relationship ended, my ex went on a rampage. He stalked me for a bit, sent stuff to my house, constantly called me while sobbing on the phone, and even ran into me a few times and burst into tears at the sight of me. It was even worse when he found out I came out as a lesbian, and he was saying that I was faking it and I was going to hell. 2 days ago, we ended up at the same house party. There were about 40-50 people there and we all knew each other. I didn't want to let him ruin my night. Eventually, he decided to do just that. He came up to me, drunk, and told me that I wasn't really gay. I asked him how he knew that information, and he brought up some stuff we did together last summer. My friends were telling me to walk away and they were going to get the host to boot him out, but I thought no. He's verbally harassed me in public. I'll do the same, which is where I may be the asshole as I know he's unstable. I launched into a whole monologue about how he helped me realize I was gay, and I went over the top in thanking him for it. I said that nothing could turn a girl gay quicker than his sloppy kisses and lame pickup lines. I said he deserves a gay award for his service to lesbians. I told him he should start a business for questioning lesbians to help them realize that they are actually gay. He walked out immediately after I finished. It turns out he checked himself into a mental hospital a few hours later. Now some of our mutual friends are calling me an asshole for not being the bigger person. Their argument is that I know what he is and what he's like, and I should have known better than to rise to the bait, knowing the potential consequences to his mental health. When I brought up that I wasn't responsible for his mental health, I was called an even bigger asshole for not caring about someone in the hospital. Am I the asshole? You acted correctly. Your ex's mental health issues existed long before your interaction and are not your responsibility. It's important to remember that he is responsible for his own actions and behavior. Hopefully, he gets the help he needs and you get to live the life you deserve. Congrats on coming out. Am I the jerk for being distant from friends over their daughter's name? I am a 35-year-old female and longtime friends with a married couple consisting of a 40-year-old male and a 42-year-old female. I've been distant since the pandemic when their daughter was born, and they just confronted me about it about an hour ago. I started distancing when the husband started judging me for not making my marriage work. There were extreme reasons I left that I never really broadcast for my children's sake. Some were very public, which I addressed, but the rest I've kept quiet. The most recent issue is that I lost a child when I was 18 years old. She was born alive but survived only a few hours. I chose a name for her that I confided in them. It was very special to me, a play on family names, but appropriate for a very unexpected and traumatic loss. They used the name for their daughter. I would have had no issue with this, but I found out in the Facebook announcement. It brought back some very painful and traumatic memories. I didn't say anything. I don't own the name. However, I felt very disrespected that they chose not to even give me a heads up, especially as many in our friend circle know where they got it, and I was put on the spot regarding my reaction. So I just distanced myself from them. About an hour ago, I received a message from him that was very angrily worded. Apparently, he had been talking to a mutual friend about me and how I've shown no interest in their daughter. He mentioned that using the name without a heads up was very painful for me and that it had put me on the spot because a lot of people had been asking for my reaction. He called me selfish and an asshole for trying to sully their joy with my pain and making everything about me. He also said that I should just get over it. She passed years ago. In my opinion, losing a child is something you never truly get over. I was never rude. I never spoke badly of them or to them, and I won't talk about it with anyone. I've just chosen to protect myself and remain distant. I wanted them to enjoy their daughter. They struggled with infertility for years, and I am happy for them. It's just painful for me, and I felt very disrespected with how they handled it. Am I the asshole? Was I wrong to create distance in a 20-year friendship over this? Or was my reaction reasonable? Your actions don't make you a jerk. Honestly, what they did was a little weird. People can be really numb sometimes. The fact that distancing yourself seems like the best move shows you're not trying to make it about you. It's time to distance yourself permanently from these terrible people. Sorry that happened to you. Am I the jerk for refusing to bring a letter from my mom to family therapy? My parents broke up when I was a few weeks old. They were never married, and they were around 19 or 20 years old when they had me, so they were pretty young. They didn't get along well, but they could be civil to each other at times. It really depended on the situation because sometimes they stayed away from each other. When I was 6 years old, my dad met my stepmother, and they got married by the time I was 7 years old. My mom and stepmother did not get along at all. I remember feeling the tension between them. I remember hearing my stepmother grumble to my dad about my mom if I had to go to their house instead of home with my mom after they had all been in the same place. It was especially bad if they all showed up to my dance recitals. My stepmother wanted to be the one involved in some of the dance activities. She used to tell my dad that she didn't think she'd have much in common with a young boy, but dance could be our thing, and my mom was hogging it by always being there. My mom was the person who signed me up for dance. My dad wasn't supportive back then. He's a bit too macho for that. My mom got sick when I was 8 years old, and she died when I was 10 years old. The worst part of that time was when she got too sick to take care of me, and I had to live with my dad all the time. I still saw my mom, but it wasn't the same. Before she died, she wrote me a letter and told me to read it whenever I needed to feel close to her. She said she put all her love into that letter. She also left me cards for milestones. My mom's original letter made my stepmother very angry. I never called my stepmother mom or anything, and I never called her my parent either. I know she technically is, but I always disliked the idea of her being called that because she hated my mom so much and felt like my mom needed to step back from things to let her take over them, like dance. My stepmother is upset that my mom never mentioned her in the letter and that my mom never asked me to let her, stepmother, in. She felt like my mom put up a final wall between us, ensuring she would always be the outsider in my eyes, and I would always long for my mom and reject her as a mother figure. Our relationship is really tense. While things with my dad are better than they were when I was younger, he has become softer, so he suggested the three of us should go to therapy together to figure things out. After 2 months of therapy, my stepmother wants the letter brought into sessions, and the counselor feels like that's a good idea, and we should discuss the content of it since it's such a point of tension. However, I don't want my stepmother anywhere near it. She is toxic when it comes to my mom, and I don't want her to taint it. The counselor told me it would benefit us all. My stepmother got mad and said even a piece of paper is more important to me than she is. We had 2 sessions since, and I did not bring it. This made my stepmother's anger worse. Am I the asshole? You did nothing wrong here. The contents of that letter are for you and you alone, and your stepmother should stop deluding herself into thinking you will ever acknowledge her as your mother. Do you ever get one-on-one time with the therapist to explain yourself without your stepmother there? If not, tell your dad that this therapy isn't working for you and you won't continue unless you get some individual therapy as well. It might also be a good idea to look into getting a safe or lockbox to keep the letter secure. Would I be the jerk if I asked my so to skip one of 2 social events the weekend of my birthday, to which I am not invited? My partner, a 29-year-old male, and I, a 29-year-old female, celebrated our 9-year anniversary earlier this month, and we made plans a while ago to go out of town this past weekend to celebrate it. My birthday is also coming up in the first week of July, and it will be a work day for us. The weekend after, we are going to a wedding on Friday, and he will be leaving on Saturday for a work social in a rental out of town that the crew plans to sleep over at and return mid-morning Sunday. This last part is a hard no for me, but only the sleepover. This is an annual thing, and previously I drove him there midday and went back to get him sometime around midnight. This time it is almost a 2-hour drive, so after some debate, we compromised on me renting a place nearby and staying there while he is at the barbecue. By his logic of spending days together celebrating, he argued previously that the 3-day anniversary weekend should cover both the anniversary and my birthday. While I do not agree, I accepted this. However, since he willfully sabotaged our last day together, I am debating asking him to forego the work social. Not just because I feel it would be a reasonable consequence of ruining our plans, but also I would much rather we spend the day together and not alone in a rental while he has fun during my birthday weekend. Regarding the ruined day, 2 out of 3 days were blissful, but on the last day, he woke up in a foul mood. I cannot really explain what happened because he gives me contradictory information. He claims he wanted me to take charge because he had decision fatigue and anxiety about going to work early the next day, but also felt irritated when I tried to do just that because I was bossing him around with unreasonable requests. These included getting dressed, packing breakfast for us, and washing the dishes in our rental. I must presume his idea of me taking over was quite literally getting everything done while he chilled, but he denies this. After giving me grief for over an hour, I canceled our morning plans, so we left early. He happily accepted the cancellation, and I asked him if he would prefer we remain silent as nothing I said was getting a positive response. He said yes. We drove 2.5 hours home in silence. When we got home, he took a 3-hour nap and then, in silence, we worked on our chores for the rest of the day. At 9 p.m., I finally lost my cool. The hurt of what he was doing was catching up to me, and I pushed to get an explanation of his attitude. There is none. He just felt off and did not want to course correct. Disconnecting was his preferred route, and he believed there was nothing to apologize for. We truly do not get to do these types of trips often, and I felt robbed of quality time with him. So in this case, would I be the asshole if I changed my mind and asked my significant other to skip one of the 2 social events the weekend of my birthday? This relationship sounds exhausting, and it really seems like both parties need to communicate better about their needs and commitments. The idea of making a partner suffer consequences like a child is troubling, especially when it comes to work events that are important for networking. Burnout is a real issue, and while he should plan better to prevent it, punishing him isn't the solution. This entire situation seems like it would benefit from more empathy and less power struggle. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.